Yeah, but it was great. I mean, I'm glad that we all got to do it, and we all got to hear each other's reactions during the draft. That was pretty cool. You know,
Best part was when we were all freaking out with Mitch Trubisky going off the board, because I don't think I was expecting a quarterback, but I wasn't expecting him.
I couldn't believe that I thought maybe Deshaun Watson. I didn't.
That's what I was thinking.
No,
him or Mahomes.
I knew Trubisky would be the first overall quarterback picked because he had.
That's what I mocked. Yeah.
He had the most like national spotlight.
Hype trains, gotta love them.
Right.
God.
There's this one. Yeah. Hey, let's see.
It's ridiculous.
No, it was. I think they're one of the biggest losers.
Oh,
no, I think they are.
Where do you think I put the top of my board for the biggest loser?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, no team. I don't think any team lost as badly.
What's up?
I think the biggest question mark was the Patriots. Like their first pick was the 82nd pick in the draft was their first pick.
Let's be honest here. Any of us could play for the Patriots and we'd be pretty good.
I gave them a C plus.
To me, the Patriots don't even draft well in the first 6 rounds.
Just give me a player.
They don't.
Come on.
all their players are like rookie free agents, or like Wes Welker. Well, I don't even remember if he was even picked from the Patriots. Danny Woodhead, I don't even remember him ever being picked by the Patriots.
Wes Welker was an undrafted free agent.
Wasn't their other white receiver?
Amendola.
Amendola was an undrafted free agent.
Oh yeah.
Chris Hogan. Chris Hogan played lacrosse in college.
Exactly. Who's their other white receiver? The one that threw that touchdown in the playoffs.
Edelman. That was Julian Edelman.
Edelman, wasn't he also an undrafted?
No, he was like a 4th, 5th round pick because he was drafted to be a quarterback, but they converted him to a wide receiver.
Yeah, he played quarterback in college.
Was he drafted by the Patriots?
Yeah.
Still, that's like. I think that Bill Belichick has like a certain system. He's from Redwood City, California, so he's.
He was a 7th round pick.
7th round again. Like I think that Bill Belichick realizes that it doesn't really matter where he's picking players. He knows he's just gonna get good stock from them.
Yeah, that's why I didn't give them a lower grade. Like for example, like if they had like. The only reason it was a C plus is because number 1 they only have 4 picks, but and number 2 like it's not lower because like I was giving him I had him at an F because they weren't making any picks because of course they're not making picks. But then when they picked up Derek Rivers, I was like, wow, that's actually a pretty good pick.
Yeah,
and that brought it up. So ready to do this, I guess, because it's 4. It's 4 o'clock my time, but.
So, hello. Welcome to another episode of Two Birds and a Third Football Podcast. We are here with Josh and Ricky, and of course my name's Hank, and we are doing our 2017 NFL Draft recap, where we are going to give draft grades, and we are going to give our opinions about certain teams, winners, losers, analysis, all that good stuff. So
we're excited to come here to you guys on a beautiful Sunday in California. I don't know, how is it over there in the East Coast, Ricky?
It's all right. First time here on this podcast, but well, second time actually, but it's actually pretty fun. It got really hot like over the weekend. It was like hitting 90 degrees, and now it's like 60 degrees. I don't understand it.
Well, I'm glad that I'm trying
to reach DJ. Hey, what's up, DJ?
I'm here. How's it going, guys?
Hold on, DJ. I think I'm gonna get you on my phone.
You guys hear me?
I can hear you, but. I'm losing. Let me call you on the phone.
Your team, and then and then we'll go to grades for other teams, and then after that, we can do some biggest winners and losers in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
So we got DJ on the phone. Sorry, guys. So
okay.
So
Yes, we do.
So we're giving. So as I rudely interjected onto the other two. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna give our draft grades for our teams and the Bay Area teams, and then we are going to give our reactions. So who wants to start?
Well, why don't we start with DJ since he had the first pick of the draft?
I'm so excited about what the Browns just did. This is going to sound like a homer, but I think an A grade for the first round, and I think as the rounds went down, as they kept going along, and I know Josh is going to harp on the fact that he told me so, and he's probably right. He did tell me so. But it's a steal. It's a steal getting Myles Garrett. It's a steal getting Njoku when they traded back into the round. It was exciting. It was everything that I wanted.
You guys got Jabril Peppers too, possibly one of the best athletes in the draft.
That's true.
I think the one back round pick from I can't remember his name, but he's a defensive tackle for our. Yes, he had hit. That was a little disheartening to see them take him. So, but they're thinking about releasing him if everything comes back to where allegations are true or not.
Caleb Brantley.
Caleb Brantley, that guy from Florida.
Yes.
Okay.
DJ, I want to kill you because you drafted Matt Days. I really wanted him.
He was so close to going undrafted free agent.
Exactly. But I mean, you guys had like 11 picks, so 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10 picks.
Yeah.
So that's a lot.
Yeah, 10. Yeah.
But so you're
10
giving.
picks in the draft, man, and I think.
Keep going.
So yeah, I gotta I gotta give him a B plus all in all, a little bit on the A side, but I'm super stoked. I cannot wait for this season to start now. Let's just get to training camp and get this thing going.
Yeah. So what are you gonna give? What do you give the other? We're gonna say the Ravens, the Cowboys, the Eagles, and the Redskins and the Raiders. What do you give those teams?
You mean the Niners, not the Redskins?
I mean the Niners. The Niners. My bad.
So let's start off. Let's start off with the Niners. I think the Niners are a close second here.
For top grade?
I give them a nice B plus. I just think that
the trade to the Bears.
Junkie back, please. Yeah, to move back one.
We have connection issues.
All right, guys, we're having some technical difficulties with DJ's phone. DJ, you were cutting out pretty bad there, so we're gonna move on to Hank's grade here. We'll try to clear up the connection issue. Hank, well, how do you grade your Eagles?
So I grade my Eagles. And I'm gonna call him back on like a regular call. I grade my Eagles a B minus. And the reason why I grade them a B minus is because sorry DJ, we were losing connection. The reason why we'll go back to you. But the reason why I graded the Eagles a B minus is because a lot of their picks weren't question marks, but some of the things that they need to they need to hope for a lot of things in order for some of their players to be good. But here's the reason why I keep them in the B range. And I was talking to Josh and Ricky about this earlier. I was looking on Eagles message board. I was trolling around, And I saw a post called "In Case You Haven't Noticed." So, first of all, Derek Barnett led the defensive end from Tennessee, led the SEC in sacks this year, more than Myles Garrett, more than Jonathan Allen. Everyone knows that Derek Barnett has more college career sacks than Reggie White. Did you know he also has more than Myles Garrett and Allen too? Greg Hardy, Jadeveon Clowney. In fact, he has the most of any SEC player since at least 2005. Then Donnell Pumphrey, the running back from San Diego State, 6,405 career rushing yards, all-time FBS record. Though there are technicalities because he goes to a Mountain West school and because he had a good offensive line. Mac Hollins, the UNC receiver, best yards per catch in UNC history for anyone with at least 80 catches, for anyone with at least 70 catches, for anyone with at least 60, 50, 30 catches. Mac Hollins set the all-time yards per catch record in UNC football history for any player who has more than 13 catches, which is crazy. If you had 20 career catches and a handful of fluke 80-yard catches to pad your stats, Mac Hollins still out yards per catch to you, averaging over 81 catches, which is crazy. Deshaun Jackson clone? No. He's 6'4" and has the wingspan of a naval aircraft carrier. Rasul Douglas, 8 interceptions in his final year in college, most in the country. Nathan Gary, 13 interceptions in his whole entire collegiate career, most in Nebraska history. Shelton Gibson, C. Mac Hollins, best yards per catch in West Virginia history for anyone with double-digit receptions. Blows Tavon Austin out of the water. Only 5 other West Virginia players have ever had as many yards and TDs as Gibson, and they needed to average more than 50% more catches for their careers to get there. So if you're wondering what the Eagles draft philosophy was this year, I don't think it was combine hype, and I don't think that had anything to do with it. No arrests, no failed drug tests, some injured players taken well below where they would have been taken if they were healthy. I think the wild card pick obviously is going to be Sidney Jones. And when he's going to get back to the field, I have no idea. But if he can get back to the field and be the impact player he was at Washington, then I don't think we'll have any worries. I think that he can be a good player, a great player for us. Not to mention, we've picked players who have broken records at their colleges, and I think that that's a positive aspect. I just think that the issue was we left a lot of players on the board that could have had an impact, like a Dalvin Cook, like who is that? His last Desmond King from Iowa. I really wanted that guy. I really wanted Matt Days. I really wanted the kid from Boise. I really wanted Brian Hill. It just seemed like because I paid so much attention to college football, there were a lot of guys that I saw that I wanted, but we weren't able to get. And one player I was glad I didn't get was D.D. Westbrook, because that guy's a straight degenerate. So I'm gonna move on to grading the Browns. I give the Browns an A-. I was really happy to see, ecstatic to see that they drafted pretty well in the first round. I do like Myles Garrett. I like Jabril Peppers. I think Jabril Peppers will be more like a linebacker, though, if he puts on more weight. I think they picked a really good quarterback in Deshaun Kaiser. Notre Dame had a horrible defense last season, which is very uncharacteristic of them. But otherwise, I don't know that much about the rest of the players. You guys got a kicker, Zane Gonzalez from Arizona State. ASU sucks. But I think all in all, the Browns, I grade the Browns an A-. The Ravens, I would grade the Ravens a B. They really bolstered their defense, like at all positions. And it was really funny to watch NFL Network because the whole time they were like, oh, the Ravens are going to get an offensive player here. They're going to get an offensive player. But they ended up drafting a defensive player, which was, they just totally, they're obviously trying to rebuild their defense, and I think that's good. So I gave the Ravens a B. They also, you guys got Humphrey, right?
Yeah, we got Marlon Humphrey. He was graded the second best cornerback in the draft, so I'm happy with it.
Yeah. And then, as for the Dallas Cowboys, I give the Dallas Cowboys the best draft grade in the NFC East. Taco Charlton was a player they wanted. Chidobe Awuzie was a cornerback that I wanted. I don't think Jordan Lewis is as good. I think that in the first 3 picks, that's the one pick that I don't think is going to pan out the way you want him to. Ryan Switzer is a beast of a return man. Xavier Woods is a good safety. I've heard good things about Noah Brown. So I give them a B+. And as for the Raiders and the Niners, I give the Niners an A. I think the Niners had one of the best drafts this year. They had a lot of picks to begin with, and they made a lot of really good trades, and they addressed every need that they had. And the Raiders I would give a B, just because they also addressed needs. But I think at the same time, they just need to trust the process and understand that they already had a very talented team going into this draft. And I still think that they'll, despite the average grade, I don't think that they have anything to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just me. So, DJ, do you want to finish?
I guess my grade for the Philadelphia Eagles, I think that based off of what your reaction and how you're reacting to the draft, I give them a C, because it seems like they lost a lot of people that they really wanted earlier.
They did.
Wanted. And basically just stood there and just waited for something to fall in their lap, and nothing. I have to give them a C. I gotta give the Raiders a D too, but I think that's just because, like you said, they had a very talented coming in as well. I also give them a C because they picked a guy in investigation right now, because I know you can't hang up on them. There is some context with that, so you gotta be careful. Again, okay. Dallas was another one of those teams that they cared about the draft, they cared for the first and second round. They made sat there and waited for something to fall in their lap. I give them a C+. The Ravens get Ness. I'm just playing. Don't worry. The Ravens did they addressed needs, like Josh said. They took care of some defensive they needed. I'm going to give them a B, because that's just what John Harbaugh does. He and Ozzie, they work well together. Even though they might not have the most spectacular draft, we'll see how this all plays out here in the next few months. Maybe how these people come up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then did you talk about the Niners?
The Niners, I already gave the Niners their A.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. All right, cool. Which one of you guys wants to go next?
Ricky, why don't you take it?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Tell us about your Dallas Cowboys.
Okay, so to start off with the Cowboys, I gave them an A. For the most part, they addressed their needs, especially with the picks they were given. They didn't really move around a lot, which I was very happy with. Maybe like towards the end, they kind of moved around a bit, but for the most part, they did really well at that point. I give them a solid A. I mean, you worked with the deal that you work with the cards that were dealt with you. I mean, every team has to do that. Like in this draft, with the Eagles, for example, they didn't overlook talent. They kind of just, they played with the cards they got, and like pretty much most of these teams did pretty well. So I gave the Cowboys a solid A, considering the fact that they got the talent they did. I mean, the Jordan Lewis situation, he's getting investigated for domestic violence, but it looks similar to that of what happened with La'el Collins and Dak Prescott, where it's like it looks like he's fine, but who knows? Jury's still out. But I mean, for the most part, these cornerbacks that are and safeties that have come off the board later would have gone a lot earlier if it wasn't for the fact that it was such a talented cornerback safety draft. So I gave the Cowboys an A. As for the Eagles, I gave them a B+. I mean, a lot of people were a bit underwhelmed with the picks at first, but when you're looking at it in the big picture, they're planning on, the future. You have your defensive players that are really good are getting older, and you need to prepare for that. For the most part, they did that very well with getting Derek Barnett, who broke Reggie White's record at the University of Tennessee, which is, a lot to go for him. You got Sidney Jones. That's probably holding back this grade at a current B+. It would go up to an A+, if not, most likely an A, if it wasn't for the fact that he was injured, and we don't know how he's going to come back from that injury. Hopefully, he comes back healthy.
Yeah.
They got Donald Humphrey in the 4th round, and that's pretty good talent there. I mean, you pretty much got the successor to Darren Sproles, so you don't have to worry about we don't need to worry about Darren Sproles. Like, we have to find someone who could fit his scheme or what he does. Don't have to worry about that for the most part. So I think the Eagles did pretty well. I gave them a B+. As for the Browns, I gave them a solid A, considering the fact that, number one, they had the draft capital to do what they did and get 3 first-round picks. I mean, Myles Garrett clearly, solid pick. Where else would you? If they picked somewhere else, I would have lost it. But Jabril Peppers is an interesting pick because you don't know what kind of position he is. He's labeled as a safety, but he can also play linebacker. So I kind of labeled him as a defensive weapon, but pretty solid pick there. David Njoku, really good pick. You get the successor to Gary Barnidge, hopefully.
Gary Barnidge on. They just released him.
Oh, they did? Oh, I had no idea. So
it just happened like yesterday or something like that. They just released him.
Okay, so he is the successor to Gary Barnidge. Yeah. But then you take a gamble on DeShone Kizer with a 2nd-round pick, and that's not necessarily a bad thing because if DeShone Kizer does not pan out, hey, you know what? You have enough draft capital to move up in the next draft to get a good quarterback like Lamar Jackson or Sam Arnold, I think his name. I don't remember, but that's besides the point.
That's Darnold Cage is going to be.
What did he say?
What did you say, DJ? We couldn't hear you.
It was Sam Darnold. So yeah, he's from the USC guy. He's phenomenal.
Okay, so yeah, I mean they got a Caleb Brantley in the 6th, which is surprising. I know, the whole issue with him. We're still waiting to see how that pans out. I mean, I could have seen him if that wasn't an issue. I could have seen him going as early as the 2nd round opening up. I mean, he was clearly a very good talent to get there. I mean, of course, we got to see what happens. Let's see. As for the 49ers, I gave them a solid A. I mean, considering the fact that they got the guy they wanted in Solomon Thomas, and all they had to do was move back 1 spot, pretty good job by John Lynch. I mean, I got to give him all the credit in the world, especially for doing that move, because a lot of us, I think most of us were kind of worried. Well, not necessarily, we could care less. But I think a lot of us were pretty much set on Solomon Thomas getting taken. Well, many people thought Solomon Thomas was going to get taken. But Mitch, with Mitch Trubisky, we'll talk about that later. Him coming off the board. I mean, 49ers got a steal in Solomon Thomas, and the fact that they still got their guy and got a couple more picks, and the fact that they got Reuben Foster as well at the end.
Not to mention
that in the 1st round, yeah.
Not to mention like probably the biggest blunder in the whole draft. The Bears move up past the 49ers to get Mitch Trubisky, when the 49ers weren't even going to draft him there to begin with. You usually don't swap. You usually don't swap picks like that.
Yeah.
The 49ers must have just been like, we're just gonna draft him. Give us a draft pick, and they it's a swindle. It's highway robbery right there.
Yeah, and then see, this is the thing that you also have to keep in mind when you're drafting. A lot of people don't know that do this, but the reason I give these the Browns and 49ers A's is because the fact that they have draft capital and they can move back up to get players like Reuben Foster when you notice they're slipping, which is really good. So
right,
I mean,
that's where it pays off, is when you have
exactly. And I mean, and what was the last team? The Raiders. I gave them a solid B. I mean, I think they met some needs. I thought that they should have gone with a different player. I thought they should have. I mean, Jaron Conley. I understand that the whole accusations against him. I mean, I understand okay, the talent's too good to pass up, but I mean, even in that position, I know the Raiders have they need help on the defense. Khalil Mack can't do it alone. So right.
They needed to bring in somebody to help him. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean they pretty much did that. I thought that Dalvin Cook honestly would have gone to the Raiders because I know they're getting Marshawn Lynch, but he's only going to last a year or two. So, yeah. But I digress. They got a need. They filled a need, and and the Ravens. I was trying to think. There was another team I gave. Oh yeah, I gave the Ravens a B+. I mean, you pretty much fill holes with talented players. The problem is the reason I give it a B+, not an A, is because considering the fact you had players like Jonathan Allen on the board, Reuben Foster, but I mean it's not bad that they took Marlon Humphrey. He is arguably one of the greatest cornerbacks in this draft. I don't think he's the greatest.
My issue with Humphrey, I think they were saying, is that he struggled at times playing the receiver. He had hip turning issues.
Well, here's a good thing though, is that he's not gonna. The good thing is the Ravens can pick him up, and they don't expect him to be the number one because they still have Jimmy Smith. Yeah. So to have him as a number 2, or to have him even as a rotational backup right now, or in nickel or dime packages, stuff like that. If they want to work him like that, that's fine because we have Jimmy Smith as the number 1. He's our number 1 cornerback. And then we just picked up Brandon Carr as well, and he's a veteran who can start opposite of him. So I think that was a smart pick because he does have coachable issues. But the physical traits are all there. He has all the physical tools you want. So if it's a year or 2 of coaching that he needs, right now we can afford to do that. And it just gives us somebody who, if somebody does go down with an injury, he can still probably be a solid number 2 cornerback starter.
Yeah, and I mean John Harbaugh's the guy to do it. I mean he's a really good coach. He knows how to coach his players. I mean, so I think that's where I pretty much graded those teams. They did. Cool. Yeah,
that slides perfectly in because I give the Ravens a B+. There was some concerns at middle linebacker that we didn't really address at all we addressed it in free agent or unrestricted free agency. We picked up 2 linebackers in unrestricted free agency. So, but the Ravens have a history of getting good guys out of unrestricted free agents. Zach Orr last year, who led the team in tackles. Albert McClellan, Jameel McClain, Bart Scott, all of those guys were unrestricted free agents. So, but back to the normal draft, we went all defense the first 4 picks. It was cornerback, outside linebacker Tyus Bowser, and then defensive end Chris Wormley, outside linebacker Tim Williams from Alabama as well. So that's 2 Alabama guys in the same draft. And then Nico Saragusa that's where we adjust our offensive needs in the 4th and 5th rounds. We got 2 offensive guards / tackles. They've both moved around on the line during their collegiate careers. So the next one is Jermaine Uwamor and Uwamor from Texas A&M. He's a prospect. He started playing football 13 or something like that. So he's a prospect, but I think we can we can give them a solid B plus because we addressed the needs that we needed. And honestly, free agency is still going on. I know everyone was saying center, but this wasn't a very good year for centers. So if we can get Nick Mangold now that the draft's over, I think after what is it, like May 3rd or something like that. It's not.
Yeah, I think so.
Draft people doesn't count towards a compensatory formula for next year. Picking up a free agent, I mean, it doesn't count towards your compensatory. So if we just sign, a guy like that, there'll be free agent wide receivers. People are going to be dropping players coming up here. I mean, it's the draft. You know, guys are going to be, kicked off of teams. You're not going to make the cut. So there's going to be a lot of shifting before the season actually starts. The Cowboys, I give them a B. I think you guys all, touched on all those topics. I think they, addressed some needs. I think Taco Charlton I really like him, and the Ravens I know liked him because they talked to Jim, who was his coach at Michigan. So I think you guys picked some good, some players. You addressed some needs that you had to address, but you guys are pretty set on offense. I mean, you have one of the best offenses in the NFL, so you really kind of focused on the defensive side this year. I think that was good. And then to the Eagles, Hank, I know you got a little bit upset at a couple of the picks, especially the early one.
I really did.
I think it was because the first round we saw so many players slip to places we didn't think they would fall to, and players that we really wanted to go maybe ahead of where they, we thought they were going to go. I thought Corey Davis was going to be available at 16. I thought if he was available, the Ravens would have gone with him, but he went at number 5, so but I think your Eagles, I think after the initial buyer shock, I think, I think I'll give them a solid, a solid B, not a B plus, but a solid B. You guys touched on the character issue kind of thing that was in there, but, we'll see how that plays out. Stuff like that happens in the NFL. So we'll see. DJ, I give you guys an A plus. I think not just for who you drafted, but the way you guys have handled your draft and the process and how you guys are stacking picks. And like Ricky said, that just helps you when you want to jump forward in another round. When you want to trade up to get a guy that you really like, you can trade a couple of those away and move up 6 or 7 spots and really, jump over some teams to really take guys. And that's going to be a future benefit to you. So on your players, I would give you guys a B plus, but on the draft as a whole and the way you guys have been handling it, I'm going to give you guys an A plus for your draft on that. And then the Raiders, I give them a B, just a solid B. They address some needs on defense, like you guys said, because Khalil Mack can't do it on his own, so they brought in a couple linemen, to help him out, and they brought in some outside linebackers. I think they really needed an inside linebacker higher than round 5, but we'll see. We'll see how they do, but I give them a B overall. They got a defensive tackle in the 3rd round, that guy Eddie Vanderdoes from UCLA. I think he's going to be pretty good, and he'll help out on that defensive line and maybe eat up some double teams to free up Khalil Mack, or Khalil Mack can help free up him. So I think that's good. And then they went cornerback and safety with the cornerback number 1 and safety number 2 for them. I think that's a dire need. I think that their safeties, I think we overpaid for a couple guys that fit a really good system where they were at and do not fit the system that we had. So I think I'll give them a B for trying to address that need and at least noticing it. And then for the 49ers, I got to give them an A as well. John Lynch played that really well. He smokescreened whatever he did, or maybe the Bears were scared that somebody else was going to jump up and trade or something like that. Who knows what scared the Bears into jumping up and getting him, but I give them an A because then they were able to move up back into the 1st round to get Reuben Foster. I do worry that his shoulder, they're saying he might have to get another surgery on it. And I think the Niners had bad luck. If we all remember Marcus Lattimore, remember the running back from South Carolina they took a few years back?
Yeah.
The thing
blew out his knee, and they were like, oh, we'll get him healthy again, and then it'll be great, and never panned out. So I just always worry about, I think with Sidney Jones, it's a little bit different because that was his first major injury. But Reuben Foster's already had a problem with his shoulder. So yeah, but I give them aside from that, it was still smart because his value was a top 10 guy. So to be able to hop back into the end of the first and get him, I think was good. So that's our grades. I think overall people did good. And who do you guys have graded as the best draft? We'll do best, or should we save the worst? Well, technically, right now,
let's save the worst for last. Yeah,
because technically the worst right now is the best, so let's save that for last.
Yeah. So I guess I'll go first. So I thought the team that I think did the absolute best was the Colts, considering the fact that where they were at in the draft and the talent they got. So they had Malik Hooker, who I thought was the biggest steal of the draft.
Oh yes.
You got Quincy Wilson, who was I was noticing people were saying he was like a top talent in the draft, and you got him in the second round, and you got Terrell Basham, and I know you got other players, but for the most part, those three picks, you got the talent, which equates to about possibly at most 2 first rounders and a late second, and you got them in the first, second, and third. Mm-hmm. So I mean, they're close. Yeah. The Browns and 49ers are a close second. I have them two tied. But I think the Colts did absolutely the best job in this draft.
Yeah, well, I agree. They addressed a lot of needs that they really needed. Needs that they needed. Yeah, sorry about that. But they really did. They had some glaring holes, and I think that was very apparent the last couple seasons. Even you can't. Just because you have an amazing quarterback who can do everything, he can't sustain that. So you need to get him help, and by helping him, you need to bolster some defense. They had a horrible defense last year, so they need to get better in defense. And yeah, I think they addressed the needs. And then in free agency, they got some wide receivers. So I think that team's going to be pretty good, and their draft is going to help them be good again.
All right, so the team that I had being the best this year in the draft might be a surprise to you guys, but I'm going to say it's the Green Bay Packers. I really like the Green Bay Packers drafting Kevin King, and especially moving back in the draft and grabbing a guy like Kevin King. I really like Kevin King as a corner out of Washington, but I think that the gems in their draft are later on in the draft. They drafted 3 running backs, and I really like Jamal Williams from BYU. Just a good all-around running back, as well as Aaron Jones from UTEP. But I personally think the steal of the draft was Malachi Dupree, who was drafted in the 7th round, super late out of LSU. He was a guy that I thought was going to be drafted sometime in the 3rd or 4th round, but he was drafted in the 7th. But I think that he's going to compete with those receivers, and I think Aaron Rodgers is going to make him into a damn good receiver if he ends up staying on. But again, I would give the Packers an A, but I think they secretly had the best draft.
Well, I think you guys know where I'm going with this. I'm going to be a complete homer. Pick my Browns because we don't win many things, but I feel like we won this draft.
Yeah.
I feel like what we did was we played our completely right. It just doesn't happen like that, you know. This is coming from a guy back in 2014 had to deal with Justin Gilbert as that number 3 pick. That was the draft with Derek Carr,
Khalil.
Khalil, yeah.
You guys passed on Khalil Mack and Derek Carr to take Gilbert and Johnny Manziel.
Okay, they passed up on a lot of people.
It's ridiculous. Do you know the squad that we would have in the last 7 years if we just had a little tweaks here and there? Oh, God. I feel this, it's so refreshing. It's like, after spring cleaning, it's like the first rain of the year. It's washed away and still at 0, and I feel the Browns do this every year. Might have a chance to go 8-8.
Right. Possibly.
Well,
if you cross your fingers.
DJ, I always say that. This year is the year that I think that the Browns are going to be better than the Bengals.
Dang.
Yeah, that's my bold prediction of the year. I think the Bengals lost Hugh Jackson, and no matter what they do, I don't think Marvin Lewis is a good enough coach to get them back to when they had Hugh Jackson. I'm sorry. I know he's been there.
I feel you.
He's a bad coach, but I don't think that he's.
They were talking to Cincinnati about Mr. McCarron.
Who?
They were talking to Mr. McCarron.
AJ, yeah.
What about him?
They're talking about him. They're trying to package some picks to send to Cincinnati, but I don't think Cincinnati believes in Andy Dalton, so that's why they don't want to get rid of AJ McCarron.
Because they know he's a good backup.
No, they know that Andy Dalton probably is a good. I don't know. I don't think they have full faith in Andy Dalton. Why they won't?
Andy Dalton is the equivalency of Alex Smith. He'll win you games. He's not a bad quarterback. It's just he doesn't get you over the top.
No, I think Andy Dalton's better than Alex Smith.
Oh yeah, I think so
because
too.
Alex Smith isn't always like your typical game manager. But the thing about Andy Dalton is he can do more than just that. He could get you 3 or 4 touchdowns a game,
Oh, yeah. We got to talk about this whole Bears fiasco that happened.
So let's move on to the worst grades in the draft.
Okay, so I'm assuming we all gave the Bears the worst grade, right?
Yeah, I think everyone
I
is
the
unanimous.
Bears, and actually right behind them is the Texans.
Really?
And the Texans, because this goes back to why I think the Browns had the best draft because of what they did in terms of moving around and picking. I think the Texans just gave everything away. They just don't even care. They already sold a second-round pick to Cleveland, and then they went back to Cleveland and retraded more picks with them. And don't get me wrong, Deshaun Watson, I think he's going to be pretty good, but I just don't think the Texans are setting themselves up for the future at all.
Okay. I mean...
But obviously the Bears are the worst.
Okay, so other than the Bears, I think we should put an asterisk on that. Who do you think had the worst draft? And also, me personally, I felt that it's a tie between the Rams and the Panthers, but I think more so the Panthers because considering where they're at in the draft and the needs for offensive linemen, you take Christian McCaffrey, who I don't think necessarily fits their scheme, because I know they have Jonathan Stewart, and he's more of a power back. So I was thinking, if they're looking at running back, I was thinking Dalvin Cook would go here, or they would take some defensive lineman like Jonathan Allen. But they took Christian McCaffrey. I'm not saying he's a bad player. I just think he's not worth that high of a value of a pick. And considering the fact that you start, you get a wide receiver in Curtis Samuel in the second round, as well as you finally address the offensive line in Taylor Moton. I just think that they had a lot of opportunities to get needs filled, but they got players, but it's kind of hard because it's they address some needs, but not in the way I anticipated they would.
DJ, what's yours?
Mine, I'd have to, let's put a fork in the Bears and call them the Browns. That's what just happened. They took over the Brown crown
the Brown crown.
The Brown crown.
So they get it this year, and boy, did that general manager look just like the headlights, deer in the headlights. I don't know. Oh, jeez, it's so bad what they did, and I love it because NFL memes kind of stayed off the Browns a bit. They kind of went more towards the Bears, which is great. Any less press for the Browns being terrible is great for me. But I think the second worst team, I don't like what Kansas City did. I'm going for Mahomes. I don't like Texas Tech quarterbacks, considering I've as a Browns fan. I think they're a lot of their numbers are increased only because they throw the ball. There's never a running back that comes out of Texas Tech, either receiver or quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's just they are just. You think they'd be good passers, right? They throw the ball 60 times a damn game. You think,
and then sorry to cut you off, but to be fair, I mean, like if you're throwing the ball that many times, you're gonna wear out your arm strength. So that kind of could possibly ruin a quarterback's career. Not saying it wouldn't necessarily would for Mahomes, because he's gonna sit behind Alex Smith unless Alex Smith just, wets the bed. But I mean, that's the problem with having a quarterback as, him throwing 80 times a game. You're going to wear out his arm strength. It's not like, you're throwing 20 times a game, at most 40.
Yeah, exactly. And plus Andy Reid mixes up that offense. So, I mean, it's not like he is going to be asked to go out there. He's not Drew Brees. They're not going to ask him to throw it that many times.
Which
they
is
don't
good.
have to do that. Yeah. And if he does have to throw it, it's not a dink and dunk, but it's like a West Coast style. It's not, he does have the arm strength to get it down there, but I think he needs a lot of work. He has bad footwork, really bad footwork.
I know. He's the most raw. He's the most raw prospect alongside of Mitch Trubisky, but the reason why I think he's more raw than Mitch Trubisky is the fact that, Mitch Trubisky hasn't the intangibles, and they're kind of together. Patrick Mahomes, he has the intangibles, but they're kind of thrown around, and he needs them to bring them together. I think Andy Reid can develop him. I think he has the highest ceiling of the quarterbacks. It's just he has the lowest floor, but the highest ceiling of the top quarterback prospects I'm referring to.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I completely agree.
All right, I guess it's my turn.
Yeah.
So,
who's your worst draft?
Just by default, I'm just gonna say that the worst draft was the New England Patriots. Just because they really didn't pick, just because they really didn't pick any. Well, I mean, who knows? I mean, they do like feed off of low round players. But they really didn't. They only had 4 picks in the draft, and they really didn't pick anybody. So I just don't think the draft matters to the Patriots, but I don't think it really matters who they pick. They're like,
maybe in the
future. They have like a 99% chance of being a stud. So I'm just gonna say the Patriots, just because.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So, as for this whole controversy, I don't even know it's a controversy, but the whole Bears fiasco that highlighted and shook up this draft, my lord.
Yeah. They're as DJ said, they're wearing a brown crown.
I mean, this is the thing. A lot of people, we kind of knew they were going for a quarterback. We had that feeling. But when I was looking at interviews with certain, Bears fans, those that do YouTube channels, they're like, maybe it's Solomon Thomas. And a lot of people thought it was Solomon Thomas because it's like, hey, you only move up one spot. Maybe it's someone at a position. But then what threw me off guard, which I maybe thought that it was a quarterback, was when they released the details of the trade. 2 third rounds, one this year and another the following year, and a 4th rounder this year. Then it looks like a quarterback to me. I mean, the thing is with Mitch Trubisky, I think he has the ability to become a starting quarterback. I just don't. And considering the fact, this is why I gave the Bears an F+, because, okay, you get Mitch Trubisky, you probably get someone that's it's pretty much a poor man's version of Jay Cutler as of right now, but he can probably, he could possibly do better, but, I mean, I'm speechless what happened that night with Mitch Trubisky.
No, I was completely blown away with that because it's you gave them so much for one spot. I mean, unless I don't know, there was rumors that the Niners were also getting calls from other teams to trade with them, So I think the Bears might have gotten nervous and just said, "Take this."
Listen, just take it. I think what John Lynch did an amazing job because he pretty much baited whatever team and the Bears were the victim to that bait, to taking a trade offer to move up. And that's what I think was probably what would have killed the Browns draft is if they moved up to take Mitchell Trubisky, in my opinion, because if it was Deshaun Watson, maybe I would have felt a little bit better. But I don't understand why people are getting on Deshaun Watson for being that. Like, I'm not saying he's like, oh my god, he's like the next greatest thing since like Marcus Mariota, like in terms of young quarterbacks. But like, it's like a lot of people are saying he isn't that great of a quarterback. But I'm not saying he's at all polished. I think he's probably the most polished of this group. But I mean, if you think Mitch Trubisky should have gone, I think he's this draft's Blaine Gabbert.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think he's this draft's Blake Bortles.
I was about to say Blake Bortles, but Blake Bortles, we don't know his, like I say Blaine Gabbert right now because we know what happened to him. Blake Bortles is still up in the air with what his career is.
Well, I mean, he's been in the league for as long as Derek Carr has, and Derek drafted before Derek Carr, and I honestly believe he was drafted over Derek Carr.
He was a third overall.
Purely based on the fact that it was the UCF Knights, right? Just based off of the fact that UCF just came out of nowhere, He was just a name that came out of nowhere.
Oh my god.
He was a trend.
Now,
What about Deshaun Kaiser's from Ohio? Actually. So we got ourselves a hometown boy. I know Josh was growing. This pick is growing up. Every day gets a little better.
It's low risk, possible higher reward.
Exactly, it's a second round pick, a late second round pick.
Yeah, and it's not like the Browns don't have additional second round picks. It's like that's the thing. If the Browns didn't have an additional second round pick in the future, then I'd be a little bit concerned. But they have a ton of draft capital in next year's draft, considering that, like, a lot of people, like, when they bring up the whole Deshaun Watson trade, it's like, oh, it's just the first round pick, don't worry about it. No, technically it's the first and a second because they had to dump Brock Osweiler.
Exactly.
So people have to take that into account because I had to think about it. I was like, wow, they only gave up a first round pick just to move up, like. So I thought it wasn't that bad, but then I thought, oh yeah, that's right. They gave up a second and a first pretty much to get Deshaun Watson. And who knows? I think Deshaun Watson is in the best position he could be in to succeed in the NFL. I mean, you have a potent offense for the most part that just needs a field general to just, lead them. They're probably the most set team without a quarterback. So
yeah, that's all they needed. They just needed that quarterback to get over the hump. That's why they couldn't do it in the playoffs last year. Tom Savage couldn't do it.
God. And considering the fact that they could have possibly beat the New England Patriots, startles me with that. I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean,
I think the Raiders are doing it this year. That's what what do you guys think?
I think they can. I would probably pick. I think they're my Super Bowl pick.
They definitely have a shot.
Who do?
The Raiders.
Yeah. They're not my Super Bowl pick, but they're going to the playoffs. I'm not a hater. I'm just not somebody who picks picks the teams going to the Super Bowl before the season starts.
Listen, there's one thing that's constant in this world is that there's taxes, death, and the fact that the Patriots are somehow going to win that crappy division. I mean, come on now. If you seriously think that the Jets, the Bills, or possibly the Miami Dolphins can win that division, as long as Tom Brady and Bill Belichick are still around, you're probably smoking. The only way that happens if either one of them dies or gets hurt. I mean, not wishing that. I don't want people to think that.
Hey, but remember, even Bill Belichick even did it when Tom Brady got hurt. He led Matt Castle to a playoff.
They almost won. They won the division. It was just of a stupid tiebreaker with Miami.
They didn't go to the playoffs. They were the best team not to go to the playoffs that year.
But they were like 10 and
11.
They were 11-5.
Yeah. There were 3 teams that were 11-5. The Ravens, the Dolphins, and the Patriots. And because the Dolphins I think the Dolphins had just as many head-to-head. They tied. I think the Dolphins only lost. The Dolphins were like 4-2. The Patriots were 4. They must have just had a better conference record.
I think they had a better division record. I thought.
No. I think
they tied.
They were 4-2 because they beat each other, and both teams won and lost to the Jets, which was the funny part that year because the Jets had the division locked up. Once they beat the Patriots on Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football, like Week 11. And then they just lost it. They lost it all. Like the wheel just fell off the wagon.
I think the biggest, just like on a little tangent, because I think it was in '99. I mean, I was only like a year old. I mean, I'm really young, but like it was like when the Panthers and the Packers had to score so many points because it came down to the point differential because of all the tiebreakers.
Yeah, and then the Cowboys.
And you had like Brett Favre gunslinging.
The Cowboys ended up getting that last wild card spot anyway.
Yeah, because it didn't matter.
If you guys want to look up I think the wildest Sunday NFL
ever
countdown, but prime time NFL prime. Well, back when
Chris Berman,
right? And Tom Jackson used to do it. Or in the late 90s. It was 1999, and it was a game. There were 2 games going on, and both the Packers and the Panthers had to win.
Yeah.
The Packers were playing the Cardinals at Lambeau, and the Panthers were playing the Saints in Carolina, and both of those and it came down to point totals and points for and points against, or average point totals or something like that. And it just went back and forth. 1 point the Packers were ahead, then the Panthers were ahead, then the Packers were ahead. And then I think what was it? What's his name? Mike Ditka, who was the failed coach of the Saints that year, was like, "We need to get more points. We need to get more points."
They're trying to play upset.
Yeah.
And so, like, it was crazy because you had, like, teams, like, you had Brett Favre slinging touchdowns, and it's like, what, it's just like a Week 17 game.
Yeah,
and it's like, but the video, I think, is called We Need More Points, and it's 1999. And it was a 4-way tiebreaker between the Cowboys, the Giants, the Packers and the Panthers. And the exception was if Dallas lost the late game, it would have come down to the Panthers and the Packers, and it was probably one of the craziest things that has happened recent memory. But
then the Cowboys.
Yeah.
But then the Cowboys beat the Giants.
I know, so uneventful, so it didn't matter.
It was probably the most exciting thing and then that Eagles Cowboys and like that wild card championship game back in 2008 where the Buccaneers lost to the Raiders, and then the Texans. What was it? The Texans beat the Buccaneers. No, the Buccaneers lost to the Raiders, and the Bears lost to the Texans, and then that gave the Cowboys or the Eagles the chance to go for the division, and then the Eagles beat the Cowboys, and the rest is history. But
and it wasn't even a good game. It was like 44-6.
Everyone, look up right now who's watching this. We need more points.
We need more points. 1999. That's the name of the video. Just Chris Berman. That was probably the highlight of his career. Just basically. Like, oh my god, that was a heck of a.
That was a heck.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, guys, I think it's about time to wrap it up here. It's almost 2:00. We're running up on 2 here, and I know DJ's got to run out, but I just wanted to get his final thoughts on just the draft in general, just to wrap up.
Well, better, but we are also trying to predict the unpredictable. We're giving grades out for basically strategy. I think that's what we're trying to do. No one's saying that anybody's a sure pick. No one's saying these guys are for sure going to do, put what their stats are, what they're going to do. But it's always nice to think that everybody's still in an even playing field right now. As much as far as records go, maybe stats and everything. I'm excited. And I think that the draft has become more of a spectacle. It's just reading names, but it's become one of our more ingrained sports holidays. And it's pretty cool. So it's been a pleasure to you guys about it and our 4-hour live podcast. It was a blast. It was a blast.
It really
I can't
was.
wait.
Mm-hmm.
And now, I'll see you soon. I'm about to punch the time card into my second job. All right.
All right.
You guys have a good one.
All right, you too, man.
All right, peace.
Yeah, guys. Go ahead, Hank.
I actually read something recently where someone posted something on Facebook where it said the NFL was going to make the draft where like each team got to, I don't know, it was maybe it was like a joke or something like that, where each team got to pick, had 2 hours to pick, and each team got a day or something like that.
That's insane.
I know. And then the person wrote, "This is what they should do," and I was like, "Are you being sarcastic?"
Sounds like an April Fool's prank.
Yeah, no way they would do that ever.
2 hours to make a pick. Oh my god.
Yeah.
No.
But I think that relatively it was a good draft for many teams. It was like a different kind of draft for other teams. I'm excited for July and August to see what my team is gonna possibly put on the field. I'm excited to see what my team has, and I'm excited to see the progression of the players that we drafted last year.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly.
That's why it's my favorite time of the year too, because now it means that football's about to start, and we get to see these guys back at the facilities working out. We really get to see where the season's, where we could go. So I love this time of year because it gets us all amped up for it, and I love seeing, like you guys said, the progression of our first-year guys coming back, because that's a big jump, Once you get a year under your belt, then you can really start to take off, hopefully, so...
Yeah, I mean, unless you've already taken off, like Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott, then that's something different.
Well, you gotta make sure that Dak has a good year, too, because... if there's one guy who's probably facing the most pressure this year, it's probably him.
It's probably him. Yeah.
I mean, there's not much of there's not too many times where you have a rookie quarterback that wins 13 games like he did.
Technically 13. Yeah, technically, because the last game he just sat out for the rest of it. But who cares?
But still, it's not every day that happens. And you always worry that they're gonna have a slump, which I don't. I don't know. I'm not gonna. A lot of people say one way or another. Oh, Dak Prescott's gonna have a horrible season next year, and
anybody could say it. Jared Goff could be NFL MVP next year. Exactly. Who knows? I doubt it, but I don't think it is, but. I mean, unless you're a Bears fan, you should enjoy football season coming up.
Yeah, in some way.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good season. So I'm excited, guys, and thank you again for coming on and getting to talk football and talking about the draft. Obviously, as the offseason goes on, we'll be able to bring you guys more coverage. And, there's still, there's unrestricted free agents. There's still free agents out there that you can pick up. So there's still going to be a lot happening before the seasons actually start and before we get to see the guys take the field. So we'll keep you updated, and I'm excited moving forward.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, you guys have a great time. Thank you guys for tuning in and listening. Keep posted on our Facebook, our Twitter, and our YouTube, and we will give updates with the next time we're going to come back on and do another show.
Sounds good.
Yep. All right.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
All right,
Enjoy
catch you
your
later.
weekend.
Yep. This is Two Birds and a Third, and we're out. Everyone have a good day.